Hello everyone, welcome to another Reasons and Resources episode. So if you haven't seen any of my previous Reasons and Resources videos, the idea behind this series is, for me, I am working on a long-term programming language project to do with comparative programming languages. And as part of that, I wanted to start collecting together some resources. And I figured as a side effect, it might be useful to do a set of videos just so I've got a nice sort of video recollection of the resources, but also for the benefit of anybody else that might be wanting to look at a starting point from going down a particular programming language rabbit hole. Now, for this language and for all the other ones I'm doing, I'm also including some reasons why I learned Python and why you might want to learn Python. So let's start off with some nice reasons, shall we? So I suppose what attracted me to Python, it was quite a while before I picked it up because it's been around since 91. The first book I bought on it probably wasn't until the late 2000s, where I bought one of those little O'Reilly pocketbook things, which just have the basic functionality in it and act as a nice set of reminders for the syntax. Then what happened is I was sort of looking for a language to just kick the tires in, and I really liked how you could use the notebooks, the Jupyter notebooks at the time, and I found that really useful for coming up with ideas and then either expanding out the idea in Python. Because what I used to do is I'd normally start off in a Jupyter notebook, and then at some point, once I'd got the basic ideas down, I'd then switch over to some other IDE. My favourite environment for Python to work in is Anaconda, and that's got Spider in it, along with the notebooks. And at that point, either I would develop it further or think about maybe I should try this in another language. So I do a lot of that with it. Over the years of doing courses to sort of improve my understanding of Python, because initially I was very much self-taught with it, I've done courses on data analysis, artificial intelligence, where it features very heavily indeed. And then more recently I was doing one of the CS50 courses, and I was introduced to it within web development. So for me, it ticks a number of boxes. I like to work in it for just kicking around ideas, prototyping, data analysis, certainly, my go-to programming language, AI. And then more recently, I'd like to play around a bit more with web development side of things, I think, like server-side stuff and various frameworks. I found it pretty easy to grasp when I learned it. Now, bear in mind, it wasn't my first programming language. The other thing I will say, I did have a bit of a problem during the period where I was going from using Python 2 to Python 3, and that there was a lot of legacy Python 2 code around, which leveraged libraries which weren't yet available in Python 3. And I can remember I was working on some stuff to do, I think, with some sort of like social media monitoring at the time. And the library that I wanted to use wasn't as good in version 3 as it was in version 2. So I was like straddling between both, and I found that to be a little bit confusing, but now I've sort of fully gone over to Python 3 for a long time now, actually. And yeah, so it's not been a problem since then. There's also a very large community. There's tons of resources, which is what we're going to get onto in a moment. And there's this idea about the language being batteries included. So there's a comprehensive standard library. There's multiple development environments that you can work in. I mean, it comes with its own very simple development environment, but there's a number of others that you can utilize, you can try, or you can just, install Python and then, use it in Visual Studio Code or, IntelliJ or whatever. And there's loads of stuff. And if you want to play around with more like Jupyter notebooks and variations thereof, then yeah. So great platform to experimenting. And that's why I like using that whole sort of Anaconda tool chain, because, you've got notebooks in there, you've got Spider, and then you've got other things in there as well, like R and a few other stuff as well. So yeah, it's great for that. As there's so much code over there, you would also expect that it's in pretty high demand in multiple industries. And the other thing, just off the back of the sort of things I use it for, probably if I was looking to automate and script the sort of things that I was trying to automate and script in the 80s, when I was using Quick Basic or something like that, I definitely think I would now be using Python for that. So that's my sort of reasons for learning the language and why I think other people might be interested. I'll include a link to the Wikipedia article because I find that's always a good place to start off, but not to finish. And you can go through and look at, there's some interesting design philosophies and features as well. And it's also interesting to look at the sort of, the development, the evolution of the language as well, where it's come from, what it's influenced, those sort of things. And the other nice thing is you can work in a number of different paradigms within the language as well. So yeah, knock yourself out. Also this idea of a glue language, which I quite like the term there. So just quickly looking at Stack Overflow, it's always a nice thing. I like using this website as just a benchmark. So where are we currently? Where have we been previous years with as a result of their surveys they do? So if we look at where Python is on this program scripting and markup languages most popular technologies, you can see it's up there with JavaScript, HTML, CSS, there's Python, SQL and TypeScript. I think I've mentioned this before. I certainly think that learning the first four and including learning this what do they call it, this superset TypeScript of JS does you no harm. And if you work down, you can see we've got the usual suspects here as well that often gets mentioned a lot. Certainly knowing how to do scripting in the bash or the shell, whatever operating system you're using, I've always found really useful. And we've got Java, C#, C++, C, PHP, and so on. In terms of this admired and desired chart, top of the list there. So desired 41.9%, admired 67.6%. So overall it comes out top. It's not the most admired. I think that's probably, is that Rust? Yeah. There. Now, if you are curious, as some of you might well be, about where is it, top paying, I imagine it's probably, there it is. So underneath Haskell, but above C# apparently. Yeah, looks like Erlang's the place to go, and Alexia, the Beam. So Erlang, Alexia, check out Gleam as well. I'm not sure what else is there. Isn't there some version of Closure that runs on the Beam, I think? Yeah. So yeah, if we're digressing there, but there's Python a bit further down the list. So I would say, as with a lot of languages, good starting place is the main website. I'll include a link to this. And there's obviously certain parts of it that are super useful once you've downloaded the particular installer that is most useful to you. Again, like I said, there's certain sort of pre-packaged environments that you can also track down. You can see we've got quite a wide selection of documentation on the website, including, if you do have to port from Python 2 to Python 3. I find those sort of documents really useful. There's a lot of legacy code out there still. So useful to see how you might go about doing that. Yeah, believe me, I have had to, not in Python, but I have had to deal with legacy code in other environments and migrate over, and it's no fun. Especially when you're doing it on an accounting system. Trust me. It's rather a nice beginner's guide to Python. There, you probably saw that. And then we've got some community sections in the same website. So yeah, it's a great resource to sort of start off with. Now, I was thinking about, because the resource is so good here, I didn't really know what to recommend in terms of online books. There is a section on Python books here, so it's worth checking out that and seeing what they advise, some of which are free, so it's probably a good way to go. My favourite Python books tend to come from this publisher, No Starch Press, particularly this one, Python Crash Course. This is a big book, but it's really good. I have a copy of it. The third edition only came out, December 2022 into 23, I think. So I picked up a copy of that last Christmas as my sort of go-to Python book for my nice little coding library that I have. And you can take a look at the chapters if you want, or a chapter if you want to see, what it looks like, whether you like the style or not. But yeah, pretty deep book. The other thing, and I've done other episodes about this, or another episode about this course, so you might want to check it out on the channel, and that's Harvard have a spin-off from their CS50 called An Introduction to Programming with Python. I believe this was created as a result of some people finding CS50 to be quite challenging. And you can either take it before, during, or after doing CS50. My recommendation might be to take it before CS50. I'm trying to remember the order in which I did it, but yeah, it might be useful to do that if you have no programming experience at all. If you do have programming experience, then it's up to you when you take it. And some people might benefit from like jumping between the two, I think, because there's some computer science which might be useful in before you learn Python. They do quite a good introductory CS50 as well, which that might be a good thing. Do that first, then do the Python one, then do the actual CS50X. And this also acts as a nice springboard into their CS50 AI as well. So these all mesh together real nice. But yeah, I've done other videos about that, so I'll try and remember to include a link in the description alongside the other links up here. As with all these videos, I like to talk a little bit about video resources. There's a really interesting talk at the Oxford Union by Guido, so that's, you know, nice to have a look at. It's 4 years old now. It's got full Q&A as well. I've also got EuroPython Conference have a YouTube channel, so that's pretty handy. I'll include a link to that. And there is the Talk Python to Me, the podcast has a YouTube channel, so you can check that out. I'm assuming you can also, yeah, get it through there. Ooh. There's also the Real Python podcast as well, you might want to check out. And as with a lot of the language I'm talking about, I mean, there's a ton of resources on YouTube for Python. So I just want to maybe point to some stuff that some people might not be aware of or doesn't always get mentioned. I mean, some of this is fairly well known, I think. But it's always interesting, I find, to see, you know, which computer people turn up at the Oxford Union. So there we have it. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now. And I will catch you in a future episode.